Welcome, everybody. It's fantastic to see so many people here in the room at a busy time of the semester. Also welcome to people joining us on the live streaming. My name's Jim Peacock, currently the director of the David Bruce Centre for the Study of the Americas, who are supporting this event. I'm very excited to be supporting this event. This screening of the Heartlands Earth and Bones film, followed by Q&A discussion with a creative team responsible for this film. So it's very exciting to have an opportunity for us to see this film, sometimes for some of us for the second or possibly the third time, but also to hear from the team about the project. And there'll be an opportunity then to ask questions at the end. This is a project led by Professor Kerry Morgan, who I'm going to introduce in just a second. The Heartlands Pays de Coeur project, which has been running for several years now, I think, but which has involved a number of creative as well as scholarly aspects and initiatives, and has produced some wonderful pieces of work, such as the film that we're about to watch. So I'd just like to introduce the people that we have here tonight. So we have Professor Kerry Morgan, Professor of Place Writing and Geohumanities here at Keele University. Kerry is a critic, creative writer and a participatory artist who specialises in literary geographies and contemporary Quebec fiction, prose poetry, creative non-fiction, critical creative writing, multimodal writing and creative geohumanities. Kerry recently completed an Arts and Humanities Research Council Leadership Fellowship, which was, as I've mentioned, entitled Heartlands Pays de Coeur, Geohumanities and Quebec's Regional Fiction. Excuse me. This focused on l'Estrie and the eastern townships in southeastern Quebec. The project saw her collaborate with writers, media artists, a performance company, filmmakers, and community members to make new artistic responses to the region, including a digital map, audio walk, dance, and the dance poetry film that we're about to see. Also here tonight, we're very happy to say, we have Darren Teal and Suzanne James, better known as Junction 15 Productions, award-winning filmmakers based in Newcastle-under-Lyme. And they are known for their human interest work, where they help tell the stories of underrepresented people and communities through formats including documentary, short drama, music videos, and screen dance. This work has taken them around the world, and they feel very lucky to have worked with incredible people in countries such as Cambodia, Malaysia, Jordan, and Bangladesh. We also have Patsy Brown-Hope, a Midlands-based dance artist working across dance, theatre, and film. She initially began her career as a performer, but has more recently shifted her focus into choreography and movement direction. She has worked for companies such as Birmingham Royal Ballet, Akram Khan, Royal Opera House, and Protein Dance, and is currently the interim head of movement for Royal Birmingham Conservatoire's acting school. Patsy only revisited performance work when she was introduced to Restoke in 2019, as she loves their collaborative and inclusive approach to making work. Which leads us to Claire Reynolds, welcome, is co-director of Restoke, a community arts organisation based in Stoke-on-Trent. Her background is in dance, and she creates performances and delivers workshops with people from all walks of life. And has just been telling me about a project with teenagers in the area, which sounds as if it's been exhausting but really fulfilling. So welcome to you all. I will stop talking now and hand you over to Kerry to say a bit more about the project. So, Kerry, over to you.
Thanks so much, Jim, and thanks so much to everyone who's here in the room and online. It's a real pleasure to be talking to you about a project that I dreamed of doing for 20 years. Dreams do come true often, sometimes, but you might just have to wait for a long time. So I have some thank yous to do, of course. I need to thank the Arts and Humanities Research Council for supporting the work. I need to thank the David Bruce Centre for the Study of the Americas for supporting this evening. I need to thank Arts Kiel for their work in supporting and promoting this evening. And I need to thank Audiovisual Services. Dan supported the sharing event that we had in relation to the project in April, and it's really fitting that he's here supporting us again this evening. I need to thank so many people involved in this project, but I'll talk a little bit about the project first. So, as I said, I dreamed of doing a project on Quebec's regions for a very long time, because from the mid-20th century up until the turn of the millennium, there was almost no work in literary criticism done on places and spaces outside of Montreal. They were seen as kind of backwaters, uninteresting, boring, and Montreal was the focus, not only of literary production in the region, but also of critical and creative endeavours. So I thought there's got to be something more to this story, and I started looking at Quebec's regions, so spaces and places outside of Montreal. And I was particularly interested in kind of challenging narratives around those places and spaces as being homogeneous spaces largely inhabited by a white francophone, so French-speaking settler or post-settler population. I knew the story was much more complex than that, and I was really keen to see how that was represented or not in the literature. So I was fortunate enough to be awarded an Arts and Humanities Research Council Leadership Fellowship to undertake some of this work. The project, entitled Heartlands Pays du Coeur for short, was both a literary geographies and a geo-humanities project. So it looked at, it was a two-stranded project, and it included, in terms of the geo-humanities aspects, geo-humanities, as its name suggests, brings together approaches from geography with arts and humanities. So we used elements like creative writing, performance, oral history, sound art, creative technology, dance, music, and now eventually film. And it saw me work with community members and other artists to make a range of new place-responsive art, including digital map, artworks, an audio walk, dance solo, choreographed by Claire Reynolds and performed by Patsy Brown-Hope, creative writing and readings, and Heartlands, Earth and Bones, the film we're going to look at shortly. So the project, as I said, was two-stranded. One strand looked at, was a literary geographies or desk-based strand, looked at creative prose, so fiction and creative non-fiction, set in Quebec's eastern townships in l'Estrie. That's a border region in southeastern Quebec, borders the United States. That saw me carry out close readings of around 200 texts, engaged with writers in terms of interviews, and then I drew on some of that desk-based research to inform some of the participatory elements of the project. So I devised and scripted an audio walk in Magog, a small town in the townships. And Magog is one of two sites that feature time and again in creative prose on the region. So these are some of the key findings from the prose text. So one of the ones that's most important for the film is this notion that deindustrialized literature can come out of regional and rural contexts. Sometimes it's associated, certainly in deindustrialization, literary studies in English with urban centers, but research on l'Estrie and Eastern Townships. L'Estrie is the administrative name for a region which is slightly smaller than the historical and cultural region, Eastern Townships. Both terms are still in use. That fiction and creative non-fiction, notably memoir, often traced histories of industrialization that were almost unknown or certainly little recognized, even outside of the region, even in Montreal, which is only an hour and 90 minutes drive away. And so some of the important industries in that region include mining of various sorts, including asbestos, railways, and crucially textiles. So these are not really taken much account of outside of the region, even though in Magog, for example, it's a tourist destination, it's a lakefront town, but at the same time, a little way down the road, there are the ruins of an enormous textiles factory, part of which has been repurposed and refurbished, but another part of which is still standing. So once I started seeing some of these histories, I spotted them everywhere in the literature, with various minor characters working in haberdasheries for their part-time work and so on. So the dance is based on the audio, was sparked by the audio walk that I scripted, set in Magog. It's along the lakefront. I wanted to choose a site that was accessible physically. It's a site where there are no steps. It's a site with parking. It's a site with public washrooms, public fountains, and it's a site with lots of benches, and a site where it's very easy to get food nearby. There are various restaurants, cafes, shops, and so on. And it's a well-used site, so people walk that site regularly if they live in the region. There are lots of visitors to that site as well. So, and that site I scripted the walk in a way that was both responsive to that site, but also used the site as a kind of symbol for the region. And the script includes some contextual information about the region and the literature, and also some creative prompts. And in October 2023, I trialled the site with some community participants and invited Claire Reynolds and Paul Rogerson from Restoke to participate in that trial. And then Claire was commissioned to choreograph a dance solo inspired by that experience, and Paul some accompanying music. And this is how we arrived at the film that we're going to see shortly. The one image of Keela Hall there's of Patsy doing the fabulous dance that was choreographed by Claire and then further choreographed in collaboration with Patsy at a live. There was one live performance back in last spring outside Keela Hall, prior to a kind of sharing event about the project, and then since that time, the project. That dance has now been extended into a film with the fabulous work of Junction 15. So I'll give you a bit of context there. I'm going to sit down now and let you watch the film. And I'd just really like to say a huge thank you to Claire, Patsy, Darren and Suzanne, because it's been an amazing collaboration and one that's sort of exceeded all our expectations. The film has been very well and warmly received, and it's testament, I think, to all the work and love that people brought to the project. I brought my own love to the project. It was my passion. I've worked on Quebec since my mid-20s, so about 30 years now. But what was amazing to me working on this project was that all the artists I collaborated with, that from people involved in making the map, to people involved in the audio walk, to these artworks, everyone really just also shared some love for it and really brought some amazing work, and we worked very happily together on it. So I'd just like to thank everyone for that, and thanks again for this great evening. Thank you. Let me feel the wrinkles of your skin, match them to my own, steel myself for another goodbye. The bones of the earth pull me under. Cold ribs, copper clavicle, asbestos vertebrae. I take a gulp of air tinged teal. Forest fires kept me talking on screens instead of walking the waterfront, gazing at grey. This cool June forgets October's violet pinks. Owl's head settling for the night. Sand turns to mud, loons to goslings. No ghost cries at dusk to shape my dreams. Beneath the skim of foam as pleasure boats head for the border. Mansions stare blankly. Lilies turn away, spread their leaves. I will speak beyond death in the dance of my son's eyes. Une Québécoise d'adoption, I am always there, aren't you? Circling blue with a yet-to-be darling, staring at green, arm in arm with a friend. When young, love husked me to a burr. Now I thank the world for you. For leaves furled as if cupping a baby skull or crinkling silvery sage. I miss the trembling aspen. Les trembles tout tremblant quiver in my heart.
Thank you so much again for coming. And I thought before we open it up to the floor, it might be, if it's okay with you guys, just to sort of talk a little bit and reflect on the project. I was talking to Kerry earlier, and you've been kind of so busy with things, perhaps you haven't had a chance to kind of just sit together and reflect on the film and the project and working together. I know we don't have all night, but perhaps that would be a nice place to start, just to think about what it's meant to you and how you went about putting this film together. If I hand this over to somebody.
Claire should start. Sorry, I've got a bit of a sore throat. Thank you. Yeah, it's really beautiful to be here and to be together with the creative team, because it feels like this was an evolving project that just kept, kind of changing and shifting. And I think that's what's been so nice about it, is it's been a very organic journey that, took me to Quebec in Canada, which was an incredible experience. But actually doing that really made me reflect on the place where I'm from, which is Stoke-on-Trent, where all my family is from, and to really think about the industry and the impact of industry on people, generations on from working within the industry and knowing the industry to be alive, and how that might impact on us and how we feel and how the place feels. So it was a funny journey of going so far away to reflect on home, and then to kind of come together with Patsy and Junction 15 to create something really beautiful that's now a little bit of Stoke-on-Trent that's out there in the world and being recognised all over the world, which is to me the thing I'm most proud of.
Hello, thank you for having us here. It's really lovely to be back with the creative team and to be thinking about the work again. First of all, I feel like I just want to get this out of my system. I don't think I've ever watched myself move on such a big thing before. And the memory of all the movement was flooding into my body. I had to keep stopping myself from doing the choreography again. That was very interesting. Claire asked me some really beautiful questions, and they are in here, and I just wanted to touch on those. And I think it is about being from a post-industrial place. How does it manifest in who we are? Can we feel the weight of that industry in our bones? And what does it mean to be from a place that was heavy, hard, underground? I was raised by a factory worker. I come from a long line of factory workers. I'm from a council estate in Birmingham. And I think that's really, just one thing that I always took for granted that gifted me was grit. And I think that was because I was mostly raised by my granddad that worked for decades in the factories. And that was a really beautiful thing. So it was lovely to get to explore these questions with Claire. And your job as a dancer and a choreographer is to try and translate ideas and transform, you're basically a translator. You transform ideas into a new movement language. And it was really lovely to have that time to reflect on that. And it genuinely did hurt. There was a lot of pain. It was quite painful choreography actually, because of all the grit and the tension, and then the release and the throw-in. Anyway, those are just a few initial thoughts.
And I just wanted to say as well about Patsy having to dance on really uneven ground. It was really incredibly like that, wasn't it? And all throughout the week, we were expecting it to be really rainy on the day. It was a really cold week and really, really rainy. And then just that one day we had beautiful sunshine. So you had to, in the pouring sunshine, just work through it. But now I'm so proud that we get to pay homage to these people who've worked so hard, and we get to dance around with a camera. That's amazing. And I'm so grateful that they've put in the hard work so that I get to do what we do.
Yeah, I don't have much more to add to that. Just that it was the most incredible day working with you guys and responding to the hard work that you guys had done. And then I remember when we got the film into the edit, I kind of said, it feels like it needs some spoken word. And Claire kind of went, well, as a matter of fact, we have an amazing poem written here. And so Paul wrote that and incorporated it into the soundtrack, and it just, at every point, everything just seemed to fit together so beautifully, you know, given that it wasn't originally meant to be a film, it was going to be a piece of choreography. And I just think everyone's experience and certainly our talent on this side came together, and it just created something really beautiful. And again, picking up on the idea of the class system, I grew up in Thorne, Doncaster, which is ex-mining. And what was interesting is the mine shut 3 years before I was born in '79. But I still grew up with a very profound sense of coming from a mining town, and that idea of the mining industry being a part of who I was.
Well, I think what has been so amazing, well, it's amazing to have this conversation because we haven't managed to do it yet, but so just to, in case it's not clear, I got a bit choked up at the end of my presentation, and I didn't really feel it was my space to explain, but Claire and Patsy worked on the dance solo, which was performed live, and then live at Keele, through this method, partly of asking these questions that Patsy just shared. And then I don't know whose decision it was to film the filmed version of the dance at Chatterley Whitfield. Was it yours, Claire? So that some of you will have recognised the film or read the credits that the film was filmed at Chatterley Whitfield. But I'd written the poem kind of separately. So those of you familiar with psychogeography will know some of the tricks of psychogeography. It's a kind of artistic and originally politicized movement of trying to see the world around you with fresh eyes. And one of the tricks that they used to use is associated with Parisians in the 1950s largely, but it's got a long-standing, more radical in some ways, descendants. One of the tricks is to use the map of one place to navigate another place, so you're deliberately trying to get lost in a way. So although the audio walk I scripted was designed for lakefront in Magog in Quebec, I trialed it with some graduate student colleagues and other artist colleagues from Stoke-on-Trent on Keele campus. And following that experience, I wrote with the poem Wrinkled Skin, which brings together the two landscapes. So it just happened to be a really good fit for the film.
Could I ask how the different aspects of the film came together as a multimedia kind of whole? I mean, was there a sequencing? Was the music there first? Was the poetry there first? I mean, how did it come together? What's the process of, putting the whole thing together?
Shall I start from the, yeah. Because like I say, it was a bit of, it was an evolution. So myself and Paul Rogerson, who we run Restoke, and we went to Quebec with Kerry and to kind of gather inspiration and to listen to the audio walk and to be in that landscape. And while we were there, Paul, his background is in music and makes electronic sound. He took lots of recordings, so the music actually is made from lots of recordings from Quebec. And actually then the movement and the sound were made fairly separately, so both with the same intents. But I then took the kind of brewing ideas about like deindustrialization and about bodies and the earth, and I worked with Patsy in the studio, and so that process was really a lot of improvising. So I wrote a lot of questions that I had that I was brewing on, and I took those questions to Patsy, and she like looked through and kind of funneled the ones that she found interesting, and then would take that into an improvisation, and we'd catch moments of that and be like, oh, let's keep that, let's throw that away. And then, yeah, we did lots of improvising around like words, and we took the process to Spode, to the old pottery factory, and Patsy did some improvisation there, so we could also make sure we were improvising in an industrial like landscape. So the dance came about like that, and Paul was making the music, and then we brought the dance and music together and structured it. Some of it was still improvised, so it had like sections that were set, but within that there was freedom to improvise. And Paul created the music to fit those sections. And so the dance was originally performed by Keele Hall, and I'm just actually really glad that it ended up with the life at Chatterley Whitfield, because I think, performing it outdoors felt really right, but it didn't quite feel like the right fit for the solo, whereas taking it to Chatley Whitfield then really gave it that life. So that was the process of the movement and the music. And then, maybe I can let Darren talk about, how you met it to where we were at.
Yeah, so then Claire approached me about committing it to film, and originally the idea was, well, do we just film the performance outside of Keele Hall? And then we kind of got to chatting, and, you know, as creatives tend to, you dream a little bit bigger. And we actually spoke about trying to shoot it at Spode, for the very same reasons that we ended up using Chatley Whitfield, which was that idea of industry being taken back by nature. And then you suggested Chatley Whitfield, and we went and, I went and saw the performance, and we listened to the music, and I remember videoing the performance on my phone. And then when we got to Chatley Whitfield, we did a recce, and the area, which is really well emphasised by the drone shot, is, I know that Susan and I certainly felt that you had almost like this massive ocean of concrete, and out of it were these islands of nature springing back up. And that do you remember we came across the little circle, and it just felt like a natural stage. It's only tiny, it's the size of that, but it felt like, actually. I think also we were kind of thinking that's maybe a little bit kinder on Patsy's hands because there's so much floor work. But at the same time, it was just this natural little stage. And then also, you know, all the way through it, there's at Chatley Whitfield, there's big brick chimneys, and we're throwing those in the background. And then there's the entrance to the mine. And for me, they're kind of like these man-made totems to industry that nature is slowly breaking down and getting rid of. And then not to go too far with analysing it all, but what I found really interesting was that in a lot of the backgrounds of the shots, there is these sort of fences. And I think what's kind of interesting is how what Chatley Whitfield are doing are trying to stop people going on to the bits that nature's taken back because it's a health and safety nightmare. But I just kind of thought there was something kind of interesting in that as well, really. Do you want to add?
And then like we said before, Darren was talking about voice or like poetry, and so then I went back to Kerry with that idea, and then Kerry had the perfect poem. And then I guess then there was another creative process that Paul, who's not with us, did, which was he then had the film and had the music. He recorded Kerry delivering the poem, and then he then spent a lot of time like perfecting the balance of the movements, the poetry and the music to make sure they all had like their own space.
Yes, and twice over, because obviously there's a French language version as well. So originally I had conceived of the dance as being beyond language. Because of Quebec's system, things are either in French or in English or in one or the other with subtitles. So part of my interest for the project was thinking about how to capture other kinds of knowledge and speak to other kinds of knowledge besides learned knowledge, and also think about various kinds of outputs or artworks that could speak to different audiences. So there are academic papers, there's an audio walk, as I said, you can trial, there's a digital map that features recordings of authors reading extracts from their work set in various parts of Eastern Townships. So lots of different things, but originally I conceived the dance as being beyond, like something that everybody could watch with no language issue. But then I had to change my mind on that. And it was right. But obviously everybody then had double the work because we had to have a French language version and an English language version.
There was, just to pull on that though, the very first prize that the film won at the Big Picture Festival in Stratford-upon-Avon, one of the judges came up to me afterwards and did say, actually, the music, the choreography and the spoken word found that it made the film extremely accessible to him and to his audience, and that's one of the reasons why we won first prize. He was actually, when he saw it was screen dance, he was kind of dreading it. He was like, oh God, arty-farty rubbish. And then by watching it, actually went, no, it's made me want to watch more screen dance because it actually was quite an accessible route into it. So, I think the spoken word does a lot of the graft on that as well.
I came because I love to watch you move, Patsy. And I'm just really sorry I don't get to see you move more often. I was very struck watching the film at the amount of drama in every gesture, the intensity of drama, and a sense of kind of imagery behind the scenes somewhere. And I loved the way the filmmakers kind of came in close as well as coming way out, and made really lovely choices in that way, I think. Getting the geometry, but getting the struggle that we could feel in the knuckles, all of that, and ankles. So, yeah, just thanks very much for that, and please don't stop dancing. Please don't stop performing.
I'll try. My body's starting to really hate me now, but I'll try. Thank you. Thank you.
I just wondered if there was any significance in the decision to have a single dancer, and what it felt like for you having to dance sort of in a very open space in that kind of extremely disciplined way.
Well, I can't talk about the choice of a solo dancer and why that was, but I think in terms of transitioning the movement that you create from a studio space into somewhere that's what I would call more site-specific, there is always, like, the movement will always evolve in that area. It would never make sense to, the movement that you create in the studio, it would never make sense to just plonk it there and think it's going to work. So you have to sort of see what the area that you're working with and then readapt it to that. So like Darren was talking about, these small islands, so then there was lots of adjustments that I had to do with the choreography to ensure like we kept it within that. There's some like barriers that I'm also working with, so we took some movement ideas that we had from the studio, but then we reapply them and transition them and transform them so that you're really integrated into the space. That's always an important part of whenever you do anything that's site-specific. Yeah.
And in terms of the choice for solo dancer, I mean, that was obviously partly about budgets, but also when I was putting the bid together, I mean, it was a very large bid, well, large for humanities projects. It was a significant bid, and that I wasn't sure whether the dance geopoetics, which we've kind of invented, was gonna, how that was gonna be received by reviewers. But actually, the reviewers loved the blue skies, thinking blue skies.
I just really feel that what we're doing is incredibly different, and we're building on a bedrock of like really hard workers. And I just feel really privileged that that those people worked in those industries and created those communities, and we've been able to like become artists. Like that was just be unheard of from so many people from like Stoke-on-Trent, and for my parents and grandparents that just wasn't a possibility. But their hard work means that I've been able to do that, and so hopefully people would meet it with like that understanding that we don't take it for granted, that we're able to do this, that we're able to be artists and dancers and filmmakers in a place where that's been really hard.
I was just sorry, Kay. I was going to say there is a community of miners that have seen it, because the Friends of Chatley Whitfield are constantly sharing every post about it online. They love it, and their audience and friends love it as well. Like, honestly, every time I put, Greece Film Festival, they're constantly sharing it, so they're super proud of the film.
And it's been seen all over the world as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, we'll come to that in a minute, if that's okay. So I was just going to say, literally, the project sort of came about because of some of the industrial labour that you were referencing, Claire. So the even reason I'm an academic is because my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, went to university because her grandfather was a manager of a mine, and he paid for her to go to university. So a woman from South Wales going to the university in the 1930s is quite extraordinary, but she met my grandfather there, so I am literally here because of that background. My parents are teachers, which was quite common to be from a family of teachers, but obviously still from the valleys, from a mining community, and people in my family have really appreciated the film. They've loved it. But what is, I think Darren will say a bit more about this in a moment, but the film has been extraordinarily well received around the world, and I think that has been really very heartwarming for all of us. Because I also wanted to take account and acknowledge the fact that we can have semi-experimental work that's about working class communities and places. It doesn't have to be a single aesthetic. So you can just try and make, you could just give it a, that's why I'm glad it's short. I wanted it to be short because I wanted the dance just to be something that people could try. If they didn't like it, they didn't like it. It's just a few minutes of your time. But it's something that you might just like and then, go on and watch more. But I just can't, I don't really hold with this patronizing idea that there's only one aesthetic to fit one community. So I wanted us to be semi-experimental in our work, and everybody felt the same. It was great. But I think Darren's now going to talk about the numerous awards the film has won and the way it's been received by audiences. It's so fantastic to have a film made about a small town in regional Quebec, filmed in a kind of smallish city made up of many towns in regional England, so warmly received around the world.
Definitely. I mean, up on the poster, the film laurels, that's less than half. There's a kind of etiquette within the film industry that you don't shove all of the laurels that you get on a poster because it's a bit gauche. So we've kind of just put, oh, thank you very much. Thank you. So it's really the ones where we've either won awards, or there's a few notable ones like the American Dance Foundation was a bit of a biggie to be recognised by them, quite frankly. They're huge. And so interestingly, I think it's about 23 festivals have now either officially selected us, or we've won 4 or 5 awards. Gosh, hang on one second. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 awards, and then some really good official selections are kind of like getting nominated for an award, or it means you're getting screened. So it depends on the festival, but about 23 festivals. 5 of which were in South America, so Mexico and Venezuela. They love it. Americans, so over in America, that's about 6 or 8 festivals, sorry. Some in Europe and some in the UK.
I think you mentioned, Kerry, that you've done a version in French as well. And I'm just thinking about the poem, how you sort of created that. Did you write it in one language, then translate it, or was it a sort of simultaneous creative process for...
Yes, thanks, Julius. Actually, I didn't self-translate the poem. So although I have written and published in French, I didn't feel... My written French is not to the same standard as my written English, so I got a professional literary translator to translate all the artistic works, because I knew they would be open access, shared potentially with hundreds, if not thousands, of people around the world. So they needed to be better than I could personally write. But what I did, I slightly tweaked the final translation. I showed it to the translator, because obviously a translation, as we know, is itself an artistic artifact. So the translator has a creative input. The translated version isn't just my poem anymore. So I did check with her that I did run it by her what I was going to do. But Margaret Rigo did some beautiful translations. She did a lovely translation of the poem, but then I just tweaked the ending So I put some English where we have French words in the English poem, because obviously if you work on Quebec, you're often, and indeed in any other multilingual context, you live in across more than one language at a time. I put some English words in to kind of echo that structure and give a sense of the bilingual, if not multilingual, nature of Quebec and of myself as well. I'm fluently bilingual, slightly trilingual. If it's okay, I'd just like to thank you all again for coming. I've got a few extra thank yous to people in the audience. I'd like to thank Lizzie Trafford, who took part in the Kiel version of the walk and is here today. I need to really thank Celeste Musasa, who was end of project administrator, and I've never let Celeste finish that role. She's the one who's handing out project evaluation. If you don't mind filling out the evaluations briefly, that'd be really appreciated. It's so great to see so many of you here from various different parts of my working life. And just a final huge thanks to all the artists I've had the joy and pleasure of working with on this film. It's amazing, amazing, amazing work. Thank you.